Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into a resource here in Taiwan that, well, if you rent, this could be genuinely important for navigating those tricky spots with landlords.
Definitely. And we've looked at a good amount of material, articles, and so on that give a pretty detailed picture of this service.
And what's really key, looking at this now in 2025, is that we're not talking about something on the horizon.
Exactly. That's the crucial bit. This service, it actually went live last year, back in 2024. So it's been up and running for a while now.
Oh, right. So it's established, not just an idea. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So let's unpack it then. Our mission today is to figure out what this service is, why it even came about, how you use it, and really what it means for you, the listener, if you're renting in Taiwan.
And it's definitely needed. I mean, the sources point to something like, what, 2,400 rental disputes every single year on average?
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of stress behind those numbers, you can
Yeah.
just imagine. So let's maybe kick off with the problem itself. What does the rental scene look like, according to the sources? Renting is super common here, right? But it seems like problems aren't exactly rare.
No, not at all. Issues definitely pop up. And while lots of disputes probably get sorted out informally or maybe through standard mediation,
Right.
the research we looked at really highlights that some tenants, maybe students or people just not familiar with the whole legal side of things, they can be quite vulnerable.
Yeah, I can see that.
So if that initial mediation step doesn't work, they often just don't know where to turn or maybe can't afford to really push for their rights legally.
And the articles list out the kinds of things that
Yeah.
they sound very familiar if you've ever rented.
Yeah.
Um, Landlords asking people to leave before the lease ends,
Yep. That's a big one.
unfairly keeping the deposit, which is always a huge point of contention.
Yeah.
Arguments about how electricity is billed.
Oh, yeah. The utility billing disputes.
Yes,
Classic.
right. And even things like landlords stopping tenants from applying for rent subsidies they're entitled to or reporting their rent for taxes.
Blocking legal rights, essentially.
Exactly. And sometimes it even gets to the point of landlords trying to, improperly force tenants out.
In that kind of scenario where you're maybe facing eviction or you're about to lose your deposit and you just feel stuck, that's precisely where this direct, accessible support was needed.
Okay, so that sets the stage.
Yeah.
What was the actual policy solution then?
So this is where the service we're focusing on comes in. The official title is the Rental Dispute Lessee Telephone Legal Consultation Service. Quite a mouthful.
It is, yeah.
And the sources tell us it was commissioned by the Ministry of the Interior. That's the
Yeah.
And it's actually operated day to day by the Legal Aid Foundation.
Ah, the DOSH. Okay, people know them.
Exactly. They handle the operations.
And you mentioned that launch date, August 1st, 2024. That really sticks out.
It does, because for anyone listening now, in 2025, this isn't some future plan. It's been active for, nearly a year? It's there. It's a resource available right now.
That makes a huge difference. And does the material say much about the thinking behind it? Like the government's goals?
Yeah, it does seem to reflect a clear focus. Minister Liu Shifang is mentioned, emphasizing the need to tackle these very common landlord-tenant friction points, and particularly to empower renters, especially younger people, maybe renting for the first time, giving them a tool to understand their rights.
That makes sense. And the background on how it started is interesting, too. It didn't just appear out of thin air, did it?
No, not exactly. The sources suggest it was actually civil groups like the Tenant Alliance who first proposed something like this in late 2023.
Ah, so advocacy played a role.
It seems so, and that push appears to have triggered relatively quick government action. The ministry worked with the Legal Aid Foundation, got support from the Judicial Yuan early in 2024.
Wow, that sounds pretty fast for government action.
It does seem like it moved from idea to implementation relatively quickly, yeah.
Okay, so practicality. Let's get down to brass tacks.
Oh, yeah?
If I'm a tenant, I'm listening right now, and I'm having an issue, say, my landlord won't return my deposit, or they're arguing about the electricity bill, how do I actually use this service? What's the first step?
Okay, so the process is designed to be simple. According to the info we have, you call a specific number, 412-8518.
412-8518.
Got it. Then once you're connected, you press 2, and then you press 6.
2, then 6.
And there's one small catch the sources mention. If you're calling from your mobile phone, you need to add the O2 area code at the beginning.
Ah, good tip. So 02-412-8518, then 2, then 6.
Yeah.
And who exactly is this for? Any renter.
It's specifically for residential lessees. So tenants renting a place to live.
Right, not businesses.
Exactly. Tenants dealing with legal disagreements with their lessors, their landlords, and the issues they cover. Pretty much exactly what we talked about earlier.
Like the early termination deposit issues.
Yep. Utility billing arguments, landlords blocking subsidy applications or tax reporting, and those cases of, improper or forced evictions. It covers that range of common problems.
Makes sense. What about when you can call? Are they open 24/7?
No, it's standard working hours, Monday to Friday. The times listed are 9:00 a.m. to 12:30 p.m.
Okay, morning slot.
And then they take a break and come back from 1:30 p.m. to 5:00 p.m. in the afternoon.
Standard office hours, basically.
Pretty much. And one other detail, the sources mention a time limit per call. It's set at 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay, so you need to be kind of prepared, I guess. Get straight to the point.
Yeah, that likely helps them manage the call volume and make sure more people can get through for that initial advice.
Makes sense. And what about privacy? Do they record calls or ask for details?
They do mention calls are recorded. It sounds like it's partly to assist the lawyer providing the advice and also for protection on both sides.
Standard practice for legal helplines, often.
Seems like it. And they might ask for some basic personal details. The Legal Aid Foundation is responsible for handling all that data according to privacy rules.
Okay, good to know.
So when you look at all these details, what really stands out as the main advantages of this service based on the articles?
Well, the absolute biggest one, you can't miss it, is that it's F-free E.
Huge.
Right. The articles really hammer this home. The tenant pays nothing for this legal chat. It's funded by the Ministry of the Interior through their arrangement with the Legal Aid Foundation.
And they put real money behind it, too, that initial 10 million NTD.
Yeah, it shows commitment. And just removing that cost hurdle, that's massive for tenants, especially if they're already feeling squeezed financially by the dispute itself.
Absolutely. And the second big thing is that it's professional advice.
Right, not just someone reading from a script.
No, exactly. You're talking to qualified lawyers, you're getting actual legal guidance, apparently quite quickly over the phone, sometimes even with immediate online replies for certain follow-ups.
So it's reliable, expert counsel for your specific situation.
That's the idea. And the third point, kind of tying it all together, is that it's government-backed.
Which gives it a certain weight, doesn't it?
It does. It signals stability. It's an official program integrated into the government services, which suggests, it's a resource that should be consistently available, not just some temporary pilot.
Okay, so we have this free, professional, government-backed phone line. How does it compare to what was available before? How did people usually get help, say, back in early 2024 before this launched?
Well, you had options, but they often lacked that easy, upfront legal advice component. You could, try consumer dispute arbitration or go through mediation channels run by the local government, or worst case, you might end up in court.
But getting a lawyer's take before those steps wasn't always straightforward or affordable.
Exactly. That initial legal guidance could be a barrier.
And of course, there are other groups helping tenants, too. We should mention organizations like the Tsui Mama Foundation. They've been around forever, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. Since 1994, the sources mentioned, they provide incredibly valuable services, mediation, online help.
Yeah, vital work.
Definitely. But often their focus might be more on mediation itself, or perhaps geographically specific, like focusing on Taipei and New Taipei for certain services.
So how does this new government service fit in differently?
What seems distinct about this new service, based on the materials, is its specific focus. It's a dedicated, national, phone-based legal consultation service.
The legal consultation part is key.
Right. Specifically for tenants, focused on the legal aspects, available across the country just by picking up the phone.
And I guess local governments might offer general legal advice sessions sometimes, but maybe not always with lawyers who specialize only in rental law like this service aims to.
That could be a difference, yeah. This is laser-focused on rental disputes and the legal side of them. So summing that up, it really seems this service fills a specific, important gap. Accessible, free, professional, specialized legal advice by phone directly for tenants nationwide, helping them understand their rights before maybe needing to escalate things.
And this deep dive shows it doesn't stop there. Yeah. You mentioned this is just the first stage, the phone line that started in 2024.
That's right. The sources frame the free telephone consultation as stage 1.
Which implies?
Exactly. There's a next stage mentioned, planned for the second half of this year, 2025.
Ooh, okay. What does that involve? Sounds like more support.
It does. The plan is to offer more hands-on legal assistance, especially for tenants identified as vulnerable.
Like what kind of assistance?
Things like actually helping draft legal documents, providing support during mediation sessions,
Wow, right.
and potentially, in some cases, even having legal aid accompany them to court proceedings if it gets that far.
That's a significant step up in support.
It really is. And it's useful to see this service and the plan next stage as part of a bigger picture.
So,
Well, the sources connect it to other government efforts to strengthen tenant rights more broadly. Things like applying the consumer protection law more clearly to leases, requiring real estate registration for subletting situations, which adds transparency,
right.
and even adding standard clauses to rental contracts that explicitly stop landlords from forbidding tenants from applying for subsidies.
So the phone line isn't happening in isolation. It's part of a wider push towards, well, fairer renting.
It certainly looks that way. The overall direction seems to be empowering tenants by making legal help easier to get and making their rights clearer and more enforceable.
And when tenants know their rights and have tools to act,
It promotes more transparency, hopefully leading to a more balanced relationship between landlords and renters overall.
Okay, let's try and wrap up this deep dive then. We've explored the rental dispute lessee telephone legal consultation service. Key takeaways. It's free, professional legal help over the phone, specifically for tenants in Taiwan.
And crucially, it's not hypothetical. It launched August 1st, 2024. It's operational right now in 2025.
Yeah, that's the big practical point.
And the significance, I think, is pretty clear. It signals the government is actively providing concrete resources to address common renter issues.
It's a tool for tenants.
Exactly. A tool to understand their legal standing and protect their rights when disputes happen.
So for anyone listening who is renting in Taiwan, just knowing that number 02-412-8518, then 2, then 6 during business hours could be really valuable information to have in your back pocket.
Definitely worth knowing about.
So thinking ahead then, with these steps being taken the helpline now, more direct assistance planned, all aimed at empowering tenants with legal knowledge and support. What further shifts might we start to see in that fundamental relationship between renters and landlords here in Taiwan? And how might this increasing access to legal know-how continue to reshape the rental landscape going forward?
That is the big question, isn't it? What happens next?
Something to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.